The town of Ashford, Ohio, looked like the kind of place where nothing important ever happened. Nestled between endless cornfields and crossed by a slow, moving river, it was the sort of community where everyone knew everyone else's business. Children rode bicycles until sunset, neighbors waved from front porches. And the loudest news of the week was usually who had won the high school football game. But in the summer of 1984, a single lie was born in Ashford. It seemed harmless at first. Small. Almost insignificant. No one could have imagined it would eventually change America forever. It began with a man named Thomas Reed. Thomas was a respected accountant who worked for a local manufacturing company. He was intelligent, well-spoken, and trusted by nearly everyone in town. He attended church every Sunday, coached Little League baseball, and served on community committees. To most people, he represented honesty itself. Yet Thomas had a secret. Years earlier, he had made a disastrous investment, believing he could recover the loss before anyone noticed. He borrowed money from friends, relatives, and eventually local businesses. When those debts piled up, he started manipulating financial records at work. At first, he only shifted numbers around temporarily. Then he created fake invoices. Soon, thousands of dollars had disappeared. Every day he promised himself he would fix everything tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. One August afternoon, an internal audit uncovered inconsistencies. Thomas knew the truth was about to surface. Panicked, desperate, and terrified of losing everything, he made a decision that would set history in motion. Instead of admitting what he had done, he invented a story. He claimed that the missing funds weren't stolen. According to Thomas, the company was secretly transferring money to foreign organizations linked to dangerous enemies of the United States. The accusation sounded outrageous, but it had one thing going for it. People wanted to believe it. The Cold War still dominated headlines. Americans worried constantly about foreign threats. Television programs were filled with stories of spies, conspiracies, and hidden enemies. When Thomas told investigators that he had discovered evidence of a secret network funneling money overseas, some listened carefully. What started as a desperate excuse suddenly became something larger. The company denied everything. Thomas doubled down. He provided forged documents. He fabricated names. He invented meetings that never happened. Each lie required 3 more lies to support it. Reporters from nearby cities caught wind of the story. Local newspapers ran sensational headlines. Citizens demanded answers. Politicians sensed opportunity. Soon state officials launched investigations. Television crews arrived in Ashford. The sleepy town found itself at the center of a national controversy. Thomas watched in amazement. The lie that was supposed to save him for a few days had become too large to stop. As investigators searched for evidence, they found nothing. No secret transfers. No foreign connections. No hidden network. But rather than ending the story, the lack of evidence had the opposite effect. Many people concluded the conspiracy must be even bigger than they imagined. After all, if investigators couldn't find proof, maybe someone was hiding it. Rumors spread faster than facts. Talk radio hosts discussed the case daily. Listeners called in with theories. Some claimed government agencies were involved. Others insisted powerful corporations were covering up the truth. Every week brought new speculation. The actual facts became increasingly irrelevant. People preferred the mystery. Psychologists later described this phenomenon as a perfect example of confirmation bias. Individuals accepted information that supported their beliefs and rejected information that challenged them. But at the time, few recognized what was happening. By 1985, national media outlets had entered the story. Prime time television specials examined the alleged conspiracy. Best-selling books appeared. Public trust in institutions began to erode. Americans increasingly questioned businesses, government agencies, and even traditional news organizations. The irony was astonishing. The entire movement rested on a foundation built by a frightened accountant trying to avoid prison. Meanwhile, Thomas became trapped by his own creation. Investigators continued examining his claims. Every interview increased pressure. Every contradiction created new problems. Friends noticed he looked exhausted. His marriage suffered. He barely slept. The weight of maintaining the lie grew heavier each day. One evening, he sat alone in his kitchen, staring at a stack of newspaper articles. His face appeared on the front page of several publications. Some called him a hero. Others called him a whistleblower. A few called him a patriot. Thomas knew he was none of those things. He was simply a man who had lied. And now millions believed him. For months he considered confessing. Yet each time he imagined the consequences. Fear stopped him. A confession would destroy his reputation. It would expose his crimes. It would prove that journalists, politicians, and investigators had all been deceived. The bigger the lie became, the harder it was to tell the truth. So he continued. America continued changing. The controversy inspired a new generation of media personalities who discovered something important. Fear attracted attention. Outrage generated ratings. Conspiracies sold advertisements. Facts moved slowly. Rumors moved instantly. Television producers noticed that sensational claims drew larger audiences than careful reporting. Publishers noticed that shocking stories sold more books than nuanced analysis. Political strategists noticed that emotional narratives motivated voters more effectively than detailed policy discussions. A transformation quietly began. The incentives of information started shifting. Truth mattered less. Attention mattered more. Throughout the late 1980s, the pattern spread. Similar stories emerged across the country. Many lacked evidence. Some were entirely fabricated, yet audiences consumed them eagerly. Trust fragmented. Americans increasingly separated into groups that believed different versions of reality. The nation became more suspicious, more divided, more cynical. Meanwhile, Thomas's original financial crimes remained largely forgotten. The conversation had evolved beyond him. His lie had become part of the culture. Then came the turning point. In 1989, a young investigative journalist named Rachel Morgan became interested in inconsistencies surrounding the case. Unlike others, Rachel focused on primary documents rather than rumors. She examined financial records. She reviewed transcripts. She interviewed former employees. Slowly, a disturbing picture emerged. The entire story appeared fraudulent. For 2 years, she worked relentlessly. Editors warned her the public might reject her findings. Many people had invested emotionally in the conspiracy. Challenging it could damage careers. Rachel continued anyway. Finally, in 1991, she published a series of articles exposing the truth. The evidence was overwhelming. Thomas had fabricated everything. The documents were forged. The witnesses were fictional. The conspiracy never existed. Initially, many Americans refused to believe her. Some accused her of participating in the cover-up. Others claimed her evidence was fake. The reaction shocked observers. Even when confronted with proof, countless people preferred the original lie. For the first time, researchers began seriously studying how misinformation spread through society. Universities launched projects examining rumor psychology. Media organizations debated ethical responsibilities. Government agencies explored strategies for combating false information. The revelation sparked national conversations that continue today. Thomas eventually confessed. The admission came quietly. No dramatic press conference. No emotional television interview. Just a signed statement acknowledging the truth. By then, however, the confession almost seemed irrelevant. The lie had already accomplished something extraordinary. It had changed how Americans viewed information itself. People realized that a compelling story could overpower facts. They learned that repetition often mattered more than evidence. They discovered that once misinformation entered public consciousness, removing it became incredibly difficult. The lessons extended far beyond Ashford. As technology advanced through the 1990s and early 2000s, these insights became increasingly important. The internet accelerated communication. Information traveled instantly. Anyone could publish ideas to a global audience. The opportunities were revolutionary. So were the risks. Researchers frequently referenced the Ashford case as an early warning. It demonstrated how easily false narratives could spread and how difficult they were to correct. Politicians studied it. Journalists studied it. Technology companies studied it. The story became a symbol of a larger challenge facing modern society. Who decides what is true? How can citizens evaluate competing claims? What happens when lies move faster than facts? These questions shaped countless debates in the decades that followed. Thomas Reed spent the rest of his life largely out of public view. After serving his sentence, he moved to another state. Few people recognized him. He worked ordinary jobs and avoided interviews. Those who met him described a quiet man haunted by regret. According to neighbors, he rarely discussed the past. Yet on one occasion, years later, he reportedly offered a simple reflection. "I thought I was protecting myself," he said. "I never imagined what it would become." History often focuses on dramatic battles, powerful leaders, and major events. But sometimes enormous changes begin with something much smaller. A rumor, a misunderstanding, a careless decision, or a single lie. The legacy of Ashford reached far beyond one town. It forced Americans to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. People discovered they were vulnerable to manipulation. They learned intelligence offered no immunity against deception. They realized emotions often influenced beliefs more strongly than evidence. The consequences remain visible today. Modern debates about misinformation, media responsibility, online rumors, and public trust all echo lessons first revealed decades earlier. The story serves as a reminder that lies are rarely contained. Once released into the world, they develop lives of their own. They spread beyond their creators. They evolve. They influence decisions, relationships, institutions, and even nations. The citizens of Ashford eventually returned to their ordinary lives. Children grew up. Businesses opened and closed. The river continued flowing past the town as it always had. Yet the events of 1984 remained part of American history. Visitors occasionally arrived seeking the place where everything started. They expected to find something remarkable. Instead, they found quiet streets and modest homes. The simplicity seemed almost unbelievable. How could a lie that changed a nation begin here? Perhaps that was the most important lesson of all. History's greatest transformations do not always originate in grand capitals or powerful boardrooms. Sometimes they begin in ordinary places, with ordinary people making ordinary mistakes. A frightened accountant told a lie to save himself. The lie escaped his control. It reshaped public trust. It transformed media culture. It altered political discourse. And long after the truth emerged, its effects continued rippling across America. Because while facts can be powerful, stories are often stronger. And once a story captures the imagination of millions, even the truth may struggle to catch up. That is how one lie changed America forever.